My guest today is Jason Thorne. Now, I've known Jason since he was a small child at Shaw High School, and he now serves as a band director at Creekside School in Harris County, Georgia. Welcome, Jason, and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Dr. Arnold. I appreciate it.
So, Jason, is Columbus your hometown?
It is. My dad was military, and so we moved around a little bit. But in 1996, he retired, and we made a home in Columbus where his family was.
That's great. What branch of service was he in?
He was in the Army, served 21
Okay.
years, first generation.
Well, almost everybody in Columbus except for me and you is retired military, I think. So, but when did you first become interested in music, Jason, and what instruments did you choose?
So that's a funny story that I recently don't think that I shared with many people. Um, I first started with the viola when I was in elementary school in Huntsville before dad retired. But I didn't really latch on to music, like performing music, until I saw my brother Brian. You're familiar,
Yeah,
playing the trombone, and my brother Philip playing the trumpet. And I wanted to be like them, but I didn't want to be like them because you can't be cool like your brothers. You got to
that's
be
it.
different. So that's when I started playing the clarinet in fifth grade. So
Which elementary was that?
Blanchard.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. What were the circumstances that led you to become interested in teaching?
So I gravitated to teaching because it combined a couple things that I was really interested in, working with kids and playing music. So the combination of those two things really pushed me into that avenue. My parents were strong advocates of me not just going into music just to play music. They wanted me to have a more traditional, structured career that existed in that art form. So I made sure to make the best of both worlds when I went into college, and I pursued that performance, but I also really focused on that education piece.
Excellent. Where did you go to college, Jason?
I went to Columbus State University, Schwab School of Music. I went right after I graduated from Shaw High School, go Raiders, class of 2003. And while I was teaching, I did my master's degree at Kent State.
Kent State. How about that?
Yeah.
Who was your clarinet instructor?
Her name is Dr. Lisa Obelander. She is the best. I love her to death.
Yeah, yeah. She also did oboe, didn't she?
I don't think so. She taught saxophone for a minute at Columbus State.
Maybe that was it. I knew there was another instrument involved there, but
Yeah.
so did you ever consider teaching anything besides music?
So I do a game with my kids in the classroom. It's called press conference, and they get to ask me all kinds of questions. And that's a question that comes up a lot. They ask me, if you weren't a teacher or you weren't a music teacher, what would you do? And I've always loved the aspect of music in storytelling because there's so many stories in our music that we can tell, or so many things that we can say to relate this abstract thing that is music to the kids. So for me, it's got to be social studies, because social studies is just stories, and you got to latch them in stories in our history and how we function as a society. So it would be social studies if I weren't teaching music.
That's great. You know, I hated social studies when I was in middle school and high school, but now that's almost all I read.
Yeah. And
You know, I do it for fun, not because I have to,
right.
but
The kids say, "Well, if you weren't a teacher, what would you be?" And I would say, "Well, I want to be a paleontologist. I think that would be a really fun job to go study, or like just to go explore and do the dusting and the research and the stuff like that would be really fun."
yeah, I think it would. You remember Mike Rainier?
Oh yeah,
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 his daughter is actually a paleontologist.
nice,
Yeah, and I sent her some arrowheads, and she sent me some information back about them that I had no idea that you
right,
could read from an arrowhead, but evidently you can.
cool.
So, what was your first teaching position?
I had my first teaching position out of school at Midland Middle School. I student taught at Midland under Parker Jones,
Yep.
and I did that in the fall semester. In the spring, I did some subbing around town and did the thing. But in the spring, Richard Green, who was the principal at Midland at the time, offered me the job, and I took it.
That's great. You know what Richard's doing now, right?
He's at St. Luke School. Yeah,
That's right. They could not have picked a better person.
he is the epitome of an educator for me. An
He
administrator.
characterizes servant leadership.
He does.
As far as I'm concerned, he does anyway. So, how do you encourage your students to participate in band? What's the hook that you use to get them in?
So, like recruiting, the recruiting.
Yeah.
So, I like to think that it's my amazing personality.
Don't we all?
Right, but I can't take credit for it. They've got to have some inkling from somewhere else to think about band. And I think that we have to give credit to our elementary music educators and our celebrities who are like, I used to play in the band and it was fun. And even though they're probably just saying it as a joke, or maybe they're just saying it to fill time in their interview, it really catches kids, and the kids catch that and they're like, well, Lizzo played the flute, so I'm going to join the band and I'm going to play the flute. And I think that's great. And so whenever I'm going around and asking kids, about band, it's never about band. It always starts with, how are you?
Yeah.
How's it going? How's your school day? Tell me about your school day. And then I talk to them about their dino nuggies and macaroni and cheese that's on their plate. And then we talk about, have you ever thought about making your own music? What do you think about band, or learning a new instrument, or doing something fun with your day? And then we go on from there. And I think being personable and smiley really helps with the younger kids for sure.
Sure it does. Now, it used to be the case. Now, we're talking about back in the dark ages before electricity was invented, that kids
Back when
had
we didn't
to,
need paleontologists, they were
yeah,
just
that's right. Uh, that kids had to choose to be in either PE or band, but they couldn't do both. Is that still the case?
no. When I was at Midland, the kids were required in sixth grade to take PE. They had to have that check mark done, and then they had another class that they could take, so they could choose band or one of the other connections. At Creekside, we have that rotating elementary connections schedule. So if they choose band almost becomes the focal point. And on their other day, because it's a fifth grade, sixth grade. So if they're in fifth grade, on a band day, they come to band. On the other day, they'll go to their other connections. And that may be their STEAM class, their art class, their other music class. Sometimes they get a double PE.
Great.
They've got drama there and computers. And it's just so wonderful that the kids, because I think it's important for them to, especially at this age, explore everything. Get your hands wet in everything, tickle the fingers a little bit. Because if you don't, how do you know?
Sure, sure. So how do you maintain their interest?
That's where the personality comes in. I'm an introvert. I don't know. Many people think that I'm an extroverted person, but I'm a very introverted person. I've got to have my me time. I was actually asleep most of the day because the week wears me out. Talking to people and engaging with them can be tiring for people.
Well,
And
it's not just the physical aspect, it's the mental aspect.
you're always on and always doing. So
That's it.
for me, I've got to really put myself out there and connect with the kids. I've got to ask them about their shoes, which a lot of people watching are probably going to be like, what? Why would you even care? Well, the kids care.
Oh, it's a very personal item if you stop and think about it.
Right. So if you don't ask them about it, then you don't care. Maybe. Who knows, right? Um, when I was at Midland, I would always ask about the hair because everyone's coming in with new hair every day or every other week, and I want to know what is that called? How did you do it? How long did it take? Tell me about your weekend. Something that I do every Monday of the week or whatever the first of the week is, I ask them about their best thing. What is your one best thing from the weekend? Tell me. And you know what? It may take most of the class, but that's important. Somebody took time out of that kid's day to ask about them,
And if
to
they
connect
think
with them.
you genuinely care about them, then they're going to pay attention to every word you say.
Absolutely. And you throw in a couple jokes. You use, what's the humor where you make fun of yourself? That word,
Self-deprecating.
deprecating humor. We talk about my bald head all the time.
Well,
All the time.
you can tell them that I remember when it wasn't that way.
That's right. I got the yearbook out. Yeah. And we talk about like, my dogs, or we'll talk about how cleaning a pool as an adult person is not very fun. Having a pool sounds fun, but cleaning it is not fun. But
Oh, amen.
you have
Amen.
to make education personable. Otherwise, they disconnect. And I don't think it matters if it's a band director or a math teacher or a social studies teacher. It's just about relationships and maintaining those positive relationships and recognizing that kids aren't perfect. They're going to make a mistake, and you have to redirect them with a little bit of grace and a lot of patience.
Now, how do you assign instruments, or do instruments assign themselves?
I think instruments a lot of times assign themselves. This year, I was fortunate to have a instrument testing day. So the kids came to the school. I met them. I checked them in. Said, "Hi, how you doing? Do you need a Snickers or something before we get started?" And they went up on the stage and they worked with a professional on, and they got to play every single instrument they wanted to play. And then they made a choice, and depending on the kid's choice and what the parents could do, they were able to rent from that company, or they were able to go to another store and get the instrument from them. Um, the unfortunate part is that a lot of times kids want to play an instrument, but their parents can't afford it, and
Right.
that's a shame. And I think um, money shouldn't be a problem for education, especially music education. It is an expensive thing to be a musician, and I get
Oh,
that. So we have some instruments at Creekside that we hand out to kids, and sometimes they can get the thing that they want to play, but sometimes they can't, and that's a shame. But you have to make it fun and you have to make it exciting. And you know what? I do the very first week of classes with instruments is we do duck days, and we have to make sure that we are as annoying as possible to our parents, family, friends, and neighbors. And so we get them excited about making all those crazy noises, and all of a sudden what's coming out the other end doesn't matter because we're having fun.
that's great. Now, what happens if you end up with 37 flutes, a trombone, and a drummer?
How about that's never the problem, and it's always too many percussionists, but
Yeah,
it doesn't matter to me as I'm sitting in at I don't want to say at the bottom of the pyramid, right? But Creekside, my job is foundational. My job is uh, making sure we're sitting correctly, making great sounds, having a good time. We're building up the confidence that, I could do this at another level. So if I've got 27 percussionists, then we're going to have a great percussion class. It's going to be amazing. And I can't wait to see what y'all get to do. We're all going to play super quiet like mosquitoes. Like, it doesn't matter. Of course, I might sway, one way or another, try to get a kid to choose something different. I may say, let's do percussion as a club, or you can do this here and then this here. You switch it up a little bit. But
sure.
ultimately, if you try to force a kid into an instrument that they don't want to play, that's the only year they're going to be in band.
Yeah, yeah.
They're
Now,
gone.
I have a friend of mine that is probably one of the best elementary teachers I've ever seen in my life. And he spends, say, the first 2 or 3 weeks before they ever get instruments, teaching rhythm.
Yeah.
And, and he tells them from the very first day, I will never give up on you if you promise not to give up on me.
Yeah.
And he repeats that day in and day out. And he doesn't make, he encourages every student to keep up by assigning simple things. Now they move quickly, but everybody has a simple thing every day that they practice for homework. And their homework is 15 minutes,
Hmm.
which I think is pretty reasonable if you're in sixth grade.
Yeah.
And, when the kid first gets their instrument, they're going to blow around on it and mess around and spend an hour and blow their lips out and everything else, or break their reed and
Right.
until they can't play anymore. But if you can limit them to focused practice for 15 minutes, you build a foundation, like you said, that's easy to add to later on.
Absolutely.
Did,
Something I do, I focus on rhythm as well, but I throw in a little bit of failure too, because I will purposely fail in front of the kids.
oh, sure,
Oh,
sure.
Mr. Thorne, oh, I made a mistake on this rhythm. I don't know what I was doing. And then I'll add, does anybody know what I did wrong? And it gets the kids thinking, oh, he did such and such, and then now they're talking about the thing. And it also shows um, that it's okay to fail. We
Sure.
live we live in a society right now where we're looking for instant gratification. I know I have a 3-page essay, and Chat GPT is right there. Let me let me get it done. Let me knock it out in the next 5 minutes, right? But if we show them that it's okay to fail, it's okay to try, and your friends that are sitting around you are going to lift you up, and we're going to do it together, they're willing to fail. They're willing to try. They're willing to let their face get red and a little tear hip pop up right there. But it's so magical when you can model that for them.
And if you can encourage focused practice through
Mhm.
failure, that's a great way to do that.
Yep.
If you'll spend 10 minutes on this one rhythm that's been giving you a problem, you'll never have that problem again.
Yep.
And that's a great idea. I like that. That it's okay to fail,
It is.
because you're going to fail at music. There is no doubt,
Mhm.
and probably more than you ever want to. But I will tell you from experience that cursing does not solve the problem.
No, it doesn't. You're
Yeah.
right.
So, how many students did you start this year?
I had that's math, and normally I only count to four
Or maybe eight. Yeah.
or eight. Right. I can tell you, I teach fifth and sixth grade now, so I started 88 or so fifth graders. Um, I had about 21 new sixth graders start and about 25 return from the previous year. So
Good,
all in all,
good.
it's like 100 or so beginners this year.
That's great. Now, do you have a music budget?
I had money come in from the previous year, and Harris County is great about if you need something, just let us know,
Yep.
and there it is. Yeah,
Well, that's great. Now, who buys tubas?
who buys tubas?
Yeah.
It's a good- so the so all the instruments are expensive now, but what's going to end up happening is that bands fundraise and they hold on to that money for a minute before they can purchase those larger items.
There used to be with some music companies the lease purchase plan for larger instruments. Is that still available?
I haven't looked into it, so I'm unaware. I know
Well,
that when I was at Shaw, we did a large order of instruments at one time, and they had the boosters paid overtime through the booster
right.
club.
That's what it was. Yeah. Well, good. That something to keep in the back of your mind. Of course, it's harder to fundraise with elementary kids because everybody, every sport, every club, every activity is trying to raise money. I I have an idea. I haven't gotten a lot of political support for this yet, but uh, I think that property taxes are probably the stupidest way to fund education that we could come up with because there's so much variability from one county to the next. You know, Harris County has a fairly good tax base. It's not great. It's not Gwinnett, but it's not like some of the counties in southern Georgia either. And maybe we could do, uh, let property tax go to something else, and we could get a percentage of a sales tax. You know, a 1 cent sales tax statewide raises millions and millions of dollars. Maybe that 1 cent could go to education, and we could do a better job of funding education that way. Almost anything would be better, I think, than the current method because of the inequalities built in. So
It's
I,
to sum it
I
up, it's not fair.
yeah, that's it. That's it. Now there are some equity things built in with property tax through the Georgia DOE, but it's small change compared with what they really need in some of those counties. But well, anyway, do you work at all with middle and high school students?
So I haven't gotten my feet too wet at the middle school or the high school. I really think that my job, my purpose in the county, and really what I was sent there to do is to reach up a little bit and make a really strong connection with the middle school director. We've had a lot of conversations. We've had some ideas about planning and how we can bridge that gap to make that connection there because we are a true feeder county.
Exactly.
But the real thing for me is reaching down and not really down, but over because the school's right next door
Yeah,
to the elementary schools and just asking the fourth grade elementary music teachers, how can I support you? And I don't want it to be just, well, Mr. Thorne's here to talk about band today. That's not, that's not, that's not me. I'm a big band person, but I think let's just talk music. Let's have some fun and really enjoy ourselves and make a connection. Now, whether they do band or not, I would love for them to do it. But
sure.
if they have fun and can and respect the music making process, I think that's really cool. So reaching down to the elementary schools and making a relationship there with those teachers and those kids and that administration. That way, when they get to Creekside, it's just, oh hey, Mr. Thorne, how are you? It's not
Right.
who are you?
You're not big scary music teacher.
Right. And
Yeah.
and as a male teacher in an elementary intermediate situation, that can be scary.
Oh, I know. I know. Do you play piano?
Sometimes you don't I'm not going to take payment. I'm not gonna pluck it out a little bit.
Well, that's all right. That's just one way I think that I felt like I was handicapped because I never, I had to take piano class in college, but memorizing those two little pieces they made us do did not make me a piano player at all.
I it's specialized. I wish I had, and I think a lot of people who used to take piano wish they had never stopped.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, I think a lot of people that participated in band for a couple of years wish the same thing.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when I first started teaching, and I started out in a where I was Mr. Music in a small town, and my goal at the outset was to change the world through band.
Yeah.
But what is your goal for your students?
My goal for my students. That's a really great question. I think it really just boils down to loving yourself, accepting that failure is a part of life, but it's how you recover from that that's most important.
And what
Especially
you learn from that.
right, especially at the age that I'm teaching. I don't look at little Johnny and say you're going to be a famous trumpet player one day. I look at little Johnny and I say, I hope that you know that somebody loves you. And I hope that you know that you're accepted just as you are. And whatever you choose to do, whether it be basket weaving, volleyball, softball, whatever you decide to do, I hope you know that you're supported. And if it happens to be music, that's awesome.
Sure. Well, it's hard to imagine some of those little guys uh, being professional anything, but but they'll get there quicker
They
than
will.
you realize.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, Facebook is both a blessing and a curse to me. The blessing part is I can keep up with so many kids that I've taught, since 1974. But the curse part is that I see that so many of them are grandparents now. And I think that's impossible for that to really be true. But I could not visualize them as grandparents when they were those sweet little snotty faced sixth graders. But
Right.
anyway, so do you still practice?
Yeah, every once in a while. I have my clarinet out in the classroom. I typically in the band room, I'm playing the trombone more than I do anything else.
Yeah,
I don't know why. It's a really fun instrument to play, and I love playing the clarinet. It's great. For a long time after college, I was still playing with my clarinet quartet, and we were running around the U.S. playing stuff and doing all kinds of great things. And
yep,
I have my bass clarinet in the closet back there, old Bessie. So she getting a little action here and there. Yeah, I do plan on surprising the kids at Creekside one day with like a full little performance of like, didn't know you could play it like that. Kind of.
that's great. Well, as you get older, you will play more. Trust me on that. I, I block out about an hour every afternoon to just go upstairs and practice for a while, and that way I don't yell at my wife and I don't kick the dog. you know? But it, it amazes me how it does become a lifelong avocation, if nothing else, even when you really don't look at it that way.
Yeah. You can always pull it back and play. It amazes me sometimes that I have access to this other language
Sure.
that people just don't get. They can't look at it and say that's what that sounds like. And I'll catch myself looking at a piece of music for these kiddos and I'm like, huh, sounds pretty good. And I'm not listening to nothing. It just
And they think you're nuts.
right. They're like, what voices are you hearing
Yeah,
today?
that's right. So, how long do you want your students to practice every day?
I would like for them to practice at least 4 nights a week, 20 minutes each of those nights.
Great numbers.
I'm
Great
asking
numbers.
them to, it doesn't matter to me what you practice right now. Of course, we're in August, we're about to be in September for those future people that are watching. It doesn't matter to me what you practice. If you're just doing the
Yeah,
mouthpiece, if all you're doing is looking at that piece of paper with the fingering chart on it, I'm going to
yeah,
count that as practice because your brain is engaged in that process. The more they play, the better they sound, the more they want to play and they want to practice. And then we can gear them into specifically, let's look at this.
that's great. What beginner book do you use?
We're using Traditions of Excellence.
Oh,
It's like
yeah. Yeah.
Standard of Excellence,
Something
but
like that. Yeah.
it's an upgraded version, I think, updated. It's got color pictures, comes with the online this, that, and whatever. Um, I actually just made the order for 141 books, and my heart dropped when I saw the price tag. But
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah.
we're fine.
As long as it's not your check, you're okay.
You're right. Another
So,
house.
talk to me, Jason, about talent. Where does talent come in as far as music?
I feel like if talent doesn't work hard, it doesn't matter. Um, I would rather have a kid who works hard, tries, does everything they can every day or every other. They put everything they can into it with a great attitude than a kid who has talent and
Doesn't do anything.
doesn't do anything. Like I don't, friend, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I think when I was growing up, I was a talented kid. It came very naturally to me. It was my favorite pastime. It was what I used to decompress. I mean, think of any issue that you could think of, and my solution was go play the clarinet.
Yeah.
I need to study for a social studies test. I went and played the clarinet.
Sure.
Like it was my,
And really, that's probably one of the best things you can do because of the neural pathways you were developing. Because you were learning to speak a second language. It's like coding with computers, you know? It's amazing the connections that you see with musicians who may not have been described as talented when they first began, but they became that way over a period of time.
there's a famous clarinetist. He's since retired from teaching. His name's Eric Mandat, and he got into college. And the way he told it to me, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, he was not a talented clarinet player. He squeaked and squawked and made all kinds of crazy sounds on his instrument. And what he ended up doing was taking those squeaks and squawks and making an entirely new way to play the clarinet,
Ah,
using multiphonics and extended techniques, and started
yeah,
writing pieces based off of his squeaks and squawks. And now he's one of those people that if you see him at clarinet conventions, because there are such things as clarinet conventions, he's like he's like the celebrity. Let me get a selfie with Eric Mandat. And you got to find your niche, and you got to find your way to make it work. But it boils down to I'm a good person, I'm a kind person.
right. So what do you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be I want to be the band director that stays, that's there. Kids come back in years and they say, is Mr. Thorne still here? And they're like,
Yeah,
of course Mr. Thorne is still here.
we can't run him away.
We tried. I want to be that guy because I think that a lot of times, for me at least, middle school was not the place that I thought about going back and visiting my teachers.
Yeah,
For my time at Midland, I really wanted to make sure that the kids felt loved and safe and they had a great time at middle school because it's not a good time.
no,
Puberty, people are, there are bullies everywhere. There's, people fighting and cussing, or, whatever it is, and it's not a fun place. And your body's going through these amazing changes.
and the air is full of hormones.
It is, and no deodorant to be seen. And it's they don't want to come back. But when I was at Midland, kids were coming back. Every month I would get a visitor. Hey, Mr. Thorne just wanted to stop by. And I think that that's important that they have a connection like that, and they know that people still remember them, and they have somebody they can lean back on.
You know, one thing Harris County does that I don't know where they got this, but um, at the end of each year, the seniors from Harris County High School go back to the elementary school.
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea. What a wonderful way to encourage kids, at an earlier age that you too are going to be like this one day. All you got to do is keep at it and keep trying.
right.
Well,
James Bryant used to tell me that you do what you love, and you turn around and the day's over. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's the same thing with education. These kids, they start in kindergarten, they get to high school, and they turn around and it's over. And what have you done with it? What lives have you changed? What have you learned?
Yeah. That's it. Well, Jason, listen, I appreciate you talking to me today, and I've learned some things from you, and I'd like to come visit your class one day and just sit around and watch and marvel.
Can't wait. Let's do
All
it again
right,
soon.
man. Thanks a lot, and have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.